Hey, everybody, and welcome back to For the Booze.
For the Booze.
That's right.
We are back for another week, and this is a special one.
You shared a little bit with me this week, which is rare.
It is a very interesting topic. We're going to start this off. I got to ask you a question.
Okay.
What does Harry Potter, Hocus Pocus, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, and Wizards of Waverly Place have in common with this episode? Absolutely nothing, because they were all pretending to be witches and stuff. But the topic of the week, they weren't pretending. Oh. They were doing.
Oh.
Okay. A lot of this story people will know from a certain individual who lived here. But there is more to the story, obviously. Mm-hmm. And this week, we are going to be doing our first episode in Scotland.
Yeah!
You know, motherland of my people.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Scot-Irish, but... and we are going to visit a very infamous house called the Boleskine House.
Boleskine?
Yes.
Okay.
And it was the former home of two very historical figures, one who is still alive, Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin, and of course, the Beast of Boleskine, Mr. Aleister Crowley.
Mr. Crowley.
Hey, don't get us copyrighted. Come on now.
I can't help it. I'm sorry.
This is a very interesting story. There's not as much towards the end as I would normally like, but I honestly think that a lot of the stuff that happens towards the beginning makes up for it.
Oh, okay.
It is wild.
Well, I am super excited.
It is wild. Wild. So get your cool whip and join us for this very intriguing and magical tale.
Ooh, dang, that was quite an intro.
Of Boleskine House. Let's get into this one.
Let's do it.
Now, the parish of Boleskine was formed in the 13th century when the Church of Rome began expanding into the Scottish Highlands. So this goes way back.
Wow.
Way back.
Okay.
A church and a graveyard were built in the parish around this time. A succession of ministers ran Boleskine parish and would travel the area on horseback or on foot in all weather conditions. Now, long before accounts of occult magic and hauntings, Minister Thomas Houston was even said to have had the task of hastily laying animated corpses back in their graves after a devious local wizard had raised the dead in Boleskine graveyard.
Oh, I'm sorry. What?
And this story was actually uncovered by a dinner guest of a man named Malcolm Dent, who was friend and housekeeper during the Jimmy Page era of ownership.
Wow.
I mean,
how?
Who knows if it's true? This is the legend, the story anyway. I've never seen an animated corpse come back to life myself, but times were different.
Yeah.
I don't know how different, but they were different. It's a very interesting story. And Boleskine Graveyard, I'm going to keep doing that. Boleskine Graveyard I believe the house sits kind of like it's in the Highlands. It sits kind of on a hill.
Okay.
And then just on the bottom of that hill is the graveyard. So the house was built on the ruins of this minister Thomas Houston's. They called it a kirk. It was a church, and every kirk had a manse, and a manse was the minister's like little house. And this house was said to be so incredibly poor that it barely had walls, and the floors were lined in the bones of the people waiting or people buried. And it was so much so that there was an account by a traveler during that time period who said when he went to visit, even the dogs on the property would run around with human bones in their mouth.
What the?
Yeah.
What?
It's a different time.
Obviously.
But just to give you an idea of what it was like during that time period, and let's be real, during that time period, lots of legends and stuff came out of that.
Well, yeah.
This is also right on the coast of Loch Ness.
Ooh.
It's in that area.
So you got all kinds of stuff going on over here.
So it's a spooky little area to begin with. Now, Boleskine House is allegedly built atop the ruins of an old minister's house that became ruined during the 18th century. The house overlooks Boleskine Cemetery at the foot of the hill, which is home to old war graves from the Jacobite Rebellion. Now, the manor and the cemetery are allegedly inexplicably linked by a tunnel leading from the cellar to the graveyard, possibly as an escape route for the church, or an entry point into the house used by the gentry who own the house. The manor also overlooks Loch Ness of Loch Ness Monster fame. And from what I understand, this tunnel really does exist.
That's really cool, actually.
Very cool.
That's really cool.
Now, it is rumored that before it transferred from the local parish to private ownership, that Boleskine stood as a military installation or lookout point during the rebellion years and the construction of General Wade's military road where it is located. That's the name of the road. European roads, I don't know how you guys do it. They're very, very, very strange. Like, it was like A7, 8, or X, something.
What?
Yeah, let's say, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't get it.
Yeah, we have numbered roads here, but nothing with...
I mean, we have named roads, but nothing like A7, 8XH. That's also how their zip codes work. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know.
But to be fair, our stuff probably sounds weird to them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Now, the house known as Boleskine House that stands today was constructed in the 1760s by Colonel Archibald Fraser as a hunting lodge. His father was Simon Fraser, 11th Lord Lovat, or the Fox, and was the notorious Fraser who kept switching sides throughout the Jacobite uprising, and who was later executed by beheading for treason at the Tower of London. Sweet.
Wow.
Very metal.
Okay.
The original hunting lodge was expanded continuously over the years by the Fraser family until around 1830. All the rooms were situated on one floor with 4 bedrooms, a kitchen, servant's attic bedroom that was above the kitchen, lounge, drawing room, and a library. Now, in comes the infamous Aleister Crowley, known by many names, the Beast of Boleskine, the wickedest man in the world, Great Beast 666, and the other Loch Ness Monster.
I never heard that one before.
Right. He was obviously an infamous occultist, a mystic, and a master Satanist of the 20th century, claiming that ordinary morality was for ordinary people.
That's right.
Now, Crowley bought Boleskine House in 1899 from the Fraser family. So that family lived there that whole time. They lived there for a long time, 100 years.
That's amazing.
That's a few, that's
cool.
That's a few generations of family.
Yeah, I'd say. And back then, people didn't live like as long as they do today. So
That's a myth.
What?
That's a myth.
Nuh-uh.
People did live as long as we do today. Look into it. I'm telling you.
Okay.
Maybe not during like medieval times.
I'm saying but they're
This
like
is the
going to wars and all kinds of stuff.
We go to war now.
I understand that, but like the Jacobite War and like Jacobite.
There you go. Jacobite.
But like all these things, like little tiffs with other people, and they just go to war.
I mean, yeah, but we do have war now. I'm okay. Maybe a bigger majority of the population lived longer, but people lived as long then as we do now.
Okay.
Especially rich people. They had access to all the stuff needed to stay alive.
Yeah.
He bought the house from the Fraser family to seclude himself and perform magic from the Book of Sacred Magic of Bremelin the Mage, which he discovered as a member of the British Secret Occult Society, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. I know a bit about Aleister Crowley. If anybody wants a really good, fun, entertaining version of a deep dive of Aleister Crowley, go check out last podcast on the left if you haven't.
Oh.
It is... There is stuff we try to stay family friendly. I left out a lot of stuff because we're not going to talk about it on here. Very interesting. He was a powerful man of the bottom. Yes. Now, it was during his time at Boleskine that Crowley became famous for his magic and occult practices, both around Scotland and around the world. Sometimes during this period, Golden Dawn leader Samuel MacGregor Mathers invited Crowley to Paris for advancement in the secret initiatory group, forcing Crowley to abandon the ritual. This is a big deal, and this is a huge part of a lot of the legend that comes from this house.
Wow. Okay.
Now, it said he left without dispelling the 12 kings and dukes of hell that he had summoned, and many locals blamed the house's unlucky history on evil spirits left behind. As he continued to carry various rituals out, Crowley kept a diary. At one point, he claimed that he had been performing in a particularly sunny room when it suddenly turned completely dark, which prompted him to have to use artificial light so that he could carry on.
Oh, okay.
And I've seen this in videos, books, everywhere I've looked, I've heard this story.
Wow. Very specific part to what he was completing.
Well, there's more to this ritual also. It was like he had to have a special room built where he stayed in for like 6 months straight or something.
My God.
If I can find a clip of a breakdown of it, I'll probably throw it in.
Okay.
So they can explain it better than I can. But it is insane the level at which he went at to perform this ritual.
Wow.
It's a lot. Now, his lodge keeper, Hugh Gillies, suffered a number of personal tragedies, including the loss of 2 children. Crowley himself, never one to admit a mistake, even conceded that his time and the rituals he performed at Boleskine had gotten out of hand. And if you know anything about Aleister Crowley, nothing was too out of hand for him.
Right. So everything was just accessible and doable.
Yeah, to say the least. But so for him to say things got out of hand, things must have really gotten out of hand.
Yeah.
And there is more that happened there. A lot of rumors of, and just if you want to know more about it, look into it.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff that went down there. Now, there are even rumors that Crowley summoned the Loch Ness Monster for its famous photograph in 1934.
What?
But of course, I'm pretty sure that's been pretty widely accepted to be a fake photo. Now, he is a man surrounded by very strange event and has many labels attached to him, including acts that may or may not have involved minors. So, I mean, as metal as he was, not always a good guy. He lived by a different set of rules than the rest of us.
Yeah.
After returning from Paris, Crowley didn't spend as much time at Boleskine, and he sold the property in 1913. After it was sold, the manor wasn't free from the dark energy that constantly surrounded it. In 1965, an army major named Edward Grant, who had bought the home, committed suicide by shotgun in Crowley's old bedroom. And I do know from an article that I had read that the housekeeper found him just like seconds after it happened.
Oh, no.
Yeah, like immediately.
Oh, no.
I'm sure that was pretty traumatizing and disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm sure his head was everywhere. Boleskine was then registered in the ownership of Dorothy C. Priestley, and plans were introduced in 1926 to make significant alterations and extensions to Boleskine House. However, these plans never came to fruition. Now, Boleskine House passed through a series of owners after Priestley, being purchased by Foyers Hotels Limited in 1944, then to David Shirley Crichton Simpson, why is his name so long, in 1946, who, a year later, sold the property to John Robert Rankin Fullerton of Noblethorpe, Barnsley, Yorkshire.
Another super long name. Wow. Calm down on the number of names, please. That's a lot.
So weird. Now, Boleskine House next came into ownership of Mary Verrett Grant, otherwise known as Mary Lorraine, in 1960. Now, it's alleged that while at an art exhibition in Inverness, Mary Lorraine met Molly Lorraine, but they're not related, who was fascinated by Boleskine's mysterious lore and wanted to buy the property. When she met Mary, who shared her surname, it was too strange to call it a coincidence, and she convinced her husband, Dennis Henry Lorraine, to purchase the property. And he is known as, what did they call him? The Casanova con man, I think is what they call him.
Oh, wow.
And I'm pretty sure he's well known in Hollywood of that era. I don't know how he ended up here doing this, but
yeah, right.
It's very strange. Now, they purchased the estate in 1963 with the intent to use the land as a pig rearing operation. However, Lorraine, who was by now a career con man, was establishing a pig feeding farm at Boleskine as a ruse for the ongoing Cadco scandal further south in Glenross. By the time the law had caught up to Lorraine, he had sold Boleskine House and fled back to the United States. Now, I did my best to understand this scandal, but I believe it goes as follows. Dennis Lorraine acquired loans to build a giant pig farm operation that would employ 2,000 people in the area. And he went on to sell shares of this farm, but the farm was actually never built. And then he took the money and ran, and this went down as the Great Sausage Scandal. That's what they called it.
Wait, what?
That's what they called it.
Okay.
It was, he like put it out there that this was a thing there during this time. He wasn't the only one, but I think he was the biggest one.
Oh, okay.
And he said he was building this place and, getting loans and stuff because he was about to open up 2,000 jobs. And this is it's not a huge area.
Right. So that's something they would have needed.
Yeah. So they were happy to do it. I think he even went on to like hire contractors and everything. So they were like selling shares of the farm.
Wow.
But then they just never did anything, and they took all the money and left the country.
That is so mean.
Quite a scam.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure they got pretty rich on that. Now, the Led Zeppelin guitarist, producer, and collector of Crowley memorabilia, Jimmy Page, was the next owner of Boleskine House in 1971. Now, Page wanted to remodel the house with a Crowley-like theme. Being in one of, if not the biggest rock bands at the time, Page spent little to no time at the house itself, instead asking trusted friends of his to occupy and overwatch the house. And this is going to be our first kind of venture into paranormal stuff starting here.
Okay.
Those who watched over the property for Page included Eric Hill, Barristan Colby, and Malcolm Dent. And this is where things start to get interesting. Although Jimmy Page never spent a great length of time there, he did everything he could to return the house to how it would have looked during Crowley's ownership. He commissioned an artist, Charles Pace, to paint some Crowley-esque murals on the walls. Now, these were based on the murals in Crowley's Abbey of Thelema in Sicily, discovered by Kenneth Anger in 1955. This is where in the timeline it gets interesting, but you will have to come back to the second half to hear what happened. I'm not giving it up that easy.
Oh, sneaky.
Yeah, well, got to keep it separated. Now, Page sold Boleskine to Ronald and Annette McGillivray in 1992 for £250,000. I have no idea what the conversion is on that because I don't really, I don't even understand the UK money. Now, the McGillivrays were related to the Frasers. Now, Ronald sought to reestablish Boleskine as a Fraser estate once more. There, they would gather and share memories in the gardens of Boleskine while traditional bagpipes played for large parties.
Cool. Bagpipes are sweet.
I love bagpipes.
They're so cool.
Yeah, I love them. Upon Ronald's passing, Mrs. McGillivray, why is that hard to say?
Because it looks like a lot.
Mrs. McGillivray sold Boleskine in 2002. When asked whether she had experienced any mysterious occurrences at Boleskine House, Annette claimed that she experienced, quote, absolutely none. I'm a non-believer and didn't listen to all that rubbish. We had a great time here.
Rubbish. I love that word.
It's very British.
Love that word.
Very British.
Yes.
It's like cheeky. Now, it was sold to Tienus Griffioen and Gertruda Johanna Baker. That's it. That's all I'm given. Who occupied the house as a holiday home away from their native Netherlands. However, at approximately 1:40 p.m. on December 23, 2015, a motorist on the A82 road reported flames and smoke coming from Boleskine House.
Oh no.
When fire crews arrived, it is estimated up to 60% of the house had already been incinerated, with flames rising up to 20 feet high, or for our European listeners, 3 meters.
That's a big fire.
It's a big fire.
Wow.
The firefighters concentrated on the west wing of the house as the rest of the building had already been severely damaged. The owner's business partner and daughter had gone shopping and returned to find the house ablaze. The fire was thought to have started in the kitchen. However, nobody was believed to be in the house at the time of the fire, and there were no reported casualties. The house was then deemed uninhabitable.
Yeah, I bet. That's...
Yeah, but houses have
awful.
Houses have fires and people go back to live at them. It's weird because, we're talking about this house that people were living in.
Mm-hmm. But
when you look at it now, I think they've actually restored quite a bit of it now. But when you look at it a few years ago, there's no roof. There's trees growing through the middle of it.
Whoa.
It looks like nobody lived there for decades. So I don't,
if they have redone it since, that is a hell of an undertaking.
Well, I know they've redone it to at least a certain extent because You can go there and you can tour this place.
Ooh.
Yeah,
That'd be cool.
It was taken over by a foundation, and you can set up and go like walk through. I just don't know how much of the house has been redone, but they are redoing the house to its former, the way it used to look. They're not trying to make it a new house. They're trying to make it look just like it would have back in the day.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I think I would rather see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
In April 2019, Boleskine House was put on the market. It was purchased in the following July, and the Boleskine House Foundation, SCIO, was established shortly after. They are currently aiming to return the manor to its former glory. The foundation has been awarded £250,000 via the National Lottery Heritage Fund to help with its work. The money will go towards the cost of restoring the interior of the house and will help support the charity's community engagement program. With the Boleskine land now disposed into the ownership of the charity, it is intended that Boleskine House will remain a charitable cause for years, decades, and centuries to come.
Super cool.
And it's cool.
That is awesome.
It is a cool house. I'm sure if you're watching, you've already seen pictures of it. It's nothing like grand like we're used to seeing. I mean, it's not a bad house either. I mean, but it is a two almost 300, what is it, 1790, 1890, 1990. I mean, it's 230 years old.
Yeah.
Which is honestly,
that's old.
Now that I've seen it and I'm thinking about that, it's kind of impressive how modern it looks if it was built in 1790.
If it was born in 1790.
Hey, I corrected myself. Because it doesn't, the more I think about it, I've seen it, it doesn't look like it would have been built in that time.
Maybe they were just ahead of their time.
I don't know. But there's a lot of rumors about the land, obviously, especially with stories back about, Minister Houston laying animated corpses back.
Yeah.
There's other believed stuff that has happened on the land. This land doesn't just go back to when we started the story. It goes back much farther. This was picked land back in I think the 500s.
500s?
Yeah, and then Rome came in and kind of took it and started to, grow out that direction, and that's where we kind of came in. But there is a history before that.
Wow.
I mean, it's Scotland. People have been here since people.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
Very old land. So a lot of people that I've read online that have been here say that they're not necessarily anything paranormal, but they say there really is like a magical feel in the air when you go there. It's like everything else stops. And it's, it's damp, it's cold, it's dreary, but it's beautiful.
Somewhere I'd love to go.
Scotland and Ireland and all that's on my bucket list.
Absolutely.
But this place it's got some history, to say the least. Like, some stuff has went down here, and it's, we talk about like in the past and how things are connected and all that. And I mean, there's no weirder connection that you can get than Aleister Crowley.
Mr. Crowley.
Gonna get us copyright. There were not just what we talked about. I mean, obviously, he performed other rituals in the house, and I guess that just depends on where you stand as a individual listening to this.
Right.
What do you believe? If you believe in that kind of stuff, then you believe in it. But weird stuff has happened here. People have had bad stuff, and we're going to get into it. We're going to find out some of the stuff that's happened here. I mean, I did read one of them where Aleister Crowley's housekeeper, he had 2 children die while living there.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And the general who committed suicide and stuff like that. So there's some kind of energy or something going on there. But there are stories. There are stories that I think we're going to get into.
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm excited for this, and I'm not sure why.
They're interesting.
This is an intriguing place,
sure.
It
is a very curious one.
Yeah.
Magical, if you will.
Ooh.
Now, there are many notorious houses worldwide, but one of the most storied is, of course, Boleskine House. A strange case, many believe it to be a portal to hell, with the house's past deeply rooted in the macabre and ritualistic magic. Much of the house's reputation, of course, has to do with Aleister Crowley, but it was an infamous location centuries before the Thelemite leader purchased the property. The story of Minister Thomas Houston claiming to have been tasked with laying the animated bodies back to their graves after an evil local wizard raised the dead in Boleskine graveyard. Understandably, this set a precedent for all things to come, with the house finding it impossible to escape its morbid reputation. The home is believed to be a home to dark energy. Perhaps it is the rituals Crowley performed here, when even his housekeeper, Gillies, suffered several immense tragedies, including the death of 2 children. After General Grant's, a newly married couple moved into Boleskine. However, the happy marriage didn't last. With the house's evil atmosphere interrupting proceedings, the wife was blind, and after a month, the husband walked out on her, leaving her wandering around, confused and heartbroken, unable to make sense of the matter.
What an ass. What a jerk. What?
That's rough. I couldn't,
Dude.
when I found that, I was like, what?
Wow. Like, oh, you're blind? No, I'm out. What?
I think she was already blind. Yeah, she was already blind. The wife was blind.
Oh, okay. I thought like she went blind after that. Okay. Sorry.
I mean, still, maybe.
What an ass.
That is possible. I didn't come across that, but it is possible. But, man, that is so wrong.
So bad.
If you went blind, I would just smack your butt and you wouldn't know where it was coming from. Now, by the time Jimmy Page bought the house, it was pretty run down. And initially, he thought it would be a great environment to write songs in. He spent little to no time there and left it in the care of his close friend Malcolm Dent. This poor guy.
Oh, no.
Now, it was Dent who was to experience the most shocking things. Dent once recalled, quote, "Jimmy Page caught me at a time in my life when I wasn't doing a great deal and asked me to come up and run the place. I never did establish why he fixed on me," end quote. He continued explaining that when he moved into the property, quote, "it was a wreck. It had been more or less abandoned. There had been at least one fire there. Parts of the building were missing, and it had been badly patched up. The grounds, which at one time had been very nicely laid out, were gone to hell," end quote. There were more fires in the past. I think this place had 3 or 4.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's been over the years, though. I mean, it's been fixed up, burnt, fixed up, burnt.
That's a lot. Dude,
It is
fire is rough. It's rough.
Well, there's a claim that people make that there's so many fires because it's hell opening up to claim what's theirs. It's kind of cool.
I get it.
Now, Dent was a skeptic when it came to the paranormal and the house's connections to it, but strange things started happening to him before long. He heard rumblings from the hallway, which only stopped when he went to investigate, but continued when he went back to his room. Intrigued, this led him to researching the house, and one day he came across a text explaining that the rumbling was said to be Lord Lavat's head, which was strange as he was executed in London. Now, Dent would explain, quote, "Above Boleskine, there's a place called Erogi, which is supposed to be a geographical center of the Highlands. Boleskine was then the nearest consecrated ground to Erogi, and it's thought that his soul, or part of it, ended here," end quote. Unfortunately for Dent, the worst was yet to come. He would endure the most, quote, "terrifying night of my life" when living at the property. In the middle of the night, he was woken up by the sounds of what he thought was a wild animal snorting and banging on his bedroom door. Understandably petrified, this continued for what seemed like hours. Dent was too scared to open the door until morning, and found that there was nothing there. Chillingly, when looking back on the ordeal, he said, quote, "Whatever was there was pure evil."
Oh my God.
Now, one night, a friend stayed over, and she awoke in the middle of the night, panicked as she claimed she had been attacked by, quote, "some kind of devil." Heightening the sense of dread, doors started to slam open and close, chairs moved around, and rugs rolled up on their own.
What?
That's intense.
That's all, dude.
Allegedly. On the website spookyisles.com, in an article about Boleskine House, I was able to find this also. Quote, "There was the old disused hunting lodge set in a spectacularly scenic spot for a picnic, a house that beckoned the curious in for wary investigation of its echoing rooms. This was haunted by a white lady, but no one could tell us why she flitted through the gloomy chambers of the servants' quarters." And I found another article that said some point in the house's history, there is a bridge right up the road where I don't know if it's fact or not, but it is said that a bride and groom on their wedding day riding the carriage fell off the bridge and died.
Oh my God. On their wedding day?
On their wedding day. They didn't even get to do the fun thing.
They were on their way.
To do the fun thing. But this is where a lot of it actually ends.
What?
The stories of ritualistic magic, demons, and hauntings all seem to be subsided since the home was burnt down. But recently it was open to visitation about a year ago. So what did people going there have to say about it? Of course, we went to the internet to find out. And honestly, I was very disappointed. I truly hit a roadblock. I expected this place to be riddled with stories. Mm-hmm. I guess thinking back on it now, though, you know, it was a lord's home, then another rich person's home, then Aleister Crowley's home, Jimmy Page's. So this place wasn't like open to the public or anything.
Right. Somebody owned it for almost the entire time.
Yeah. And then even like when it exchanged hands a few more times, like people were just, it was a house. People were living here and it was a house. Mm-hmm. It wasn't set up for, you know, visitation until like, I don't know, like a year and a half ago, maybe.
That's crazy. So after the foundation got it then?
Yeah.
And did their renovations?
I think they fixed it up enough to start letting people come out to the property.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm still not 100% sure how much of it has been done. I just know that one of the pictures I saw, but it might have been from right after the fire, there was like no roof. Like the whole building's just open. And there were like trees growing in the middle of it, which is weird to me.
It is super weird, but again, we've brought it up before. That always reminds me that Life After People documentary.
But this would have been such a short period of time. It's not like, all right. So you're saying like had a full-grown trees grow in the middle of a house. Let me clarify. I'm not saying I'm surprised stuff grew there because, I mean, fire puts nitrogen into the ground, which makes it more fertile. Yeah. I get that. I used to be in landscaping. But it was the time frame. To me, it doesn't seem like enough time for stuff to be that big growing in there.
Literally trees.
Yes. And it seemed like every room, like I'll show you when we're done. I'll probably put a picture of it in here as I'm talking about it. But there's like this overhead view of the house. And it looks like there's a big tree growing in the back, like the back room. I don't know what room that would be. Maybe the kitchen area or something. And it looks pretty big.
Wow.
And trees take a long time.
Yeah. I mean, unless it was just a super ginormous weed or something.
That is not a weed. Okay. I mean, it would have been like, if I had to, for scale, it would have been a weed the size of this room.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was huge. So
That's crazy.
But I scoured. I searched for stories. I searched Boleskine in every fashion I could think of.
You always do.
I mean, sometimes I don't have to try as hard because I can find everything. But this one, I was like, this can't be it. Wow. This can't be it.
Interesting.
But there's like documentaries about this place and how haunted it is.
What?
I'm telling you, man, the magic of Aleister Crowley it's big. It's big because everything and everywhere he went, like weird stuff happened.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to find the documentary of Mr. Malcolm Dent that I came across, and I'm probably going to clip it up a little bit, and I'll put it in right here so that everybody can see what he actually went through and hear it from him. And
I had no idea why he'd bought Boleskine House, the estate. I hadn't ever heard of Aleister Crowley. So arriving at Boleskine and discovering, one, that it has a history and a past, and a pretty weird past at that. Two, that there are certain things still going on there. Three, there are people who will visit the place to experience this and even practice it. And four, that one of my oldest friends seemed to be actively involved one way or another in this. There was a lot of things to sort of take in. The episode that made the biggest impression on me was sitting in bed or half lying in bed, and something outside the door of my bedroom was snuffling under the door, which it started off as if it was a dog and then became very much more powerful as a sound and as a noise and as an impression, to the extent that I snapped on a light beside the bed and was, well, I have to confess, very, very frightened, because it became extremely noisy and as if the door was going to come through. But I had a feeling as to what the creature was, and it was huge and very, very evil. And I was very, very frightened. Crowley, when he was raising the various demons and spirits at Boleskine, failed to banish all of them back from whence they came, and that one or two residues had been left behind. And he actually mentions that he had left this one bricked up, in, as he put it, in the center of Boleskine House. The room I was in that night was the center of Boleskine House. We wouldn't allow that to dominate our existence or our lives. Boleskine House was essentially a family house where a family was living, having as good a time as it could as a family, and attempting to blossom as a family. You had to acknowledge that somebody would come in from outside and have some incredible freaky time while you were there, and you saw it and witnessed it, and they were responsible for it because of their heads. House was good at that. House responded to, the Boleskine House responds to people.
But the weird thing that I have to say about this scenario is he went on to state that he met his wife while living here, and they ended up living there and taking care of the property for quite a while.
Okay.
They had kids while living here and everything else. And it was like nothing else seemed to happen. He lived like he was pretty happy. Now, there's another story that I didn't put in here because I couldn't really find any other accounts of it. But supposedly during a dark magic ritual, Aleister Crowley summoned a demon, and then they trapped the demon in the center of the house, like in a brick chamber.
Okay.
And this is totally believed. And what Malcolm Dent had said was that his room, where all that stuff happened, was right by that. Like, it shared a wall.
Which could lead to him hearing those kind of crazy things every once in a while.
I mean, it could, but it was also the 70s, and people did a lot of drugs.
This is very true.
I mean, and he was friends with dude from Zeppelin.
I don't know, man.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But let's get into some of these reviews. Now, on TripAdvisor.com, someone named Chelsea B. wrote, quote, I recently had the honor of touring the Boleskine estate, and it was nothing short of life-changing. I took a solo tour with Stephen, and the amount of knowledge I learned was truly mind-blowing. That's what we do. I was particularly interested in the mystical traditions and history of the land, as well as the surrounding nature. Stephen was well-versed in every aspect, and that's an understatement. He showed me the beautiful grounds thoroughly, explaining the plans for the estate's sustainable future. The Boleskine House Foundation has ambitious plans that will surely benefit the community, the biodiversity of the land, and the world at large. From the start, it was made clear that this was my tour, and we could walk and talk at my leisure. By the end of the tour, I was thoroughly questioning the meaning of life itself. Not only were the views breathtaking, but my mind was also thoroughly stimulated. I'd highly recommend a visit to Boleskine to anyone interested in the history or the mysticism, as well as nature and sustainability practices for recreating a bountiful ecosystem. There's no doubt in my mind that I will be returning. Take the tour, you won't regret it. Everything happens for a reason. Now, why did I add this story? Because people who go here maybe don't have a paranormal experience, but it obviously changes how they feel.
It seems to give off this energy, like the land itself just gives off this energy.
I dug extra deep on this one. Okay. Dug real deep.
Real deep?
Yep. And I looked into this because, man, what a glowing review. She took a personal tour. She's really attractive.
Oh, that explains it.
She's really good looking.
Okay.
I found her picture and I was like, yeah, of course he was so attentive. She's like young and really pretty.
Well, good for her.
No,
Getting
but
what
I'm just,
she wants,
but I'm just saying, like, you're like, it's a glowing review, and I'm sure to you, great. I think Steven might have thought you were hot, but there are more people who go there, and they just, it's like a life-changing experience for them.
Right.
And a lot of magic happened on this land.
I'm just saying, Scotland, I'd probably think it was absolutely magical if we visited too. Yeah. Just saying.
Yeah.
And then add in specific places like this.
Might actually be able to find people there with our last name.
Yeah.
Now, Ryan Goldfish5 on Reddit.com wrote 5 years ago.
Goldfish
I don't
5.
know. I don't give them their names. They just write them.
Okay.
Quote, I've heard quite a few people take it relatively serious, and some people go over there on weird haunting trips and stuff. And it certainly feels like a pretty creepy place when you see it. People I know who are aware of it are quite creeped out by the place. I think a couple of friends of mine have actually stayed out there. The people I've spoken to about it all thinks Crowley was a total freak.
I mean, who really doesn't think that?
If you go listen to the last podcast on Left episode, you will find out just how much of a freak he is. And I don't mean it in a bad way. I'm not here to shame anybody. You know, we all got our stuff. But man, he was he makes me blush.
Oh boy, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
So
don't tell people that. They're gonna think I'm some kind of
what?
Bad person.
You're not a bad person. Everybody has their things, right, baby?
Yeah. Now, on the same Reddit thread, someone named Crozer27 wrote, quote, I worked with a couple people who had worked out there. They didn't say it was haunted as such, but weird stuff happened. Cold breezes in closed rooms, doors slamming, etc. Also, there was a pond that local sheep kept drowning in, but that might be more down to sheep being dumb. And, like, to an extent, I agree with this. If you found a sheep or two, maybe.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
But if sheep are always drowning in there,
something else.
Maybe something's drawing them to the water.
Something else is going on.
I mean, that's the first thing I thought of was like, if you said a sheep drowned there.
Right.
I'd be like, yeah, what a dumb sheep.
Or 2, maybe 3.
But if it's something
over
that
a span of time
continuously happens, something is drawing them to the water.
Ooh, creepy.
Now, one last one from TripAdvisor.com in August 2023 from someone named Higher Than Your Lamib. I don't know.
Lamib?
That's what it looks like.
It does look like that.
They wrote, quote, it was one of the best things we did this holiday. Visited Boleskine house one day during the week. We were really the only ones there. We couldn't go inside, but had wonderful audio tour and view of the house and its surroundings. Spoke to Stephen, a volunteer there, and he was so helpful and told us many interesting things. It was a fascinating talk, and we felt like we randomly met a wise sage. Thank you so much for the experience. I highly recommend this for anyone interested in Aleister Crowley and the magical past. Thank you. Stephen's the man.
For real.
I'm just saying, like, and these weren't the only accounts I found of this amazing guy named Stephen. Like, people love this guy. He must be, like, an incredible guy. You must have got the audio tour because you were a dude. You weren't a hot 20-something-year-old girl. He was like, yeah, I'll let you in. Come on in. It'd be cool, but he ain't talking to you.
Yeah, right. Be like, here, you get the pamphlet. Feel free to walk around.
But I'm telling you, many, many, many reviews brought up Stephen.
Wow.
So, Stephen, if you're out there, keep doing what you're doing, man, because you're a good guy, apparently. People love you.
Good job.
People love him. It is just so weird how many times I saw his name pop up.
That's
in
pretty
a review.
cool, though. That's pretty cool having, for having somebody who knows what they're talking about the place, and then has like the personality to, just make all these people feel so comfortable and really, really enjoy their tour.
There was not one bad word spoken about him.
Wow.
Not one.
That's pretty cool.
And there were complaints from the past, like past tour guides, but not him.
Wow.
So
super cool.
I just think that's a very strange, because usually, like, if you find a place, people will complain about somebody that other people will like. Not this guy. This dude is seemingly loved by everyone he comes in contact with. Stevens, we're just the best.
Yeah.
Now
you are.
Now, this is where the story ends. Whether you believe in magic and black rituals, hauntings, cursed land, and whatever else it may be, it does seem like something is happening here. But what that is, it's up to you to decide. And that's it. That is where the information train, pulled into the station. It wasn't going anymore.
Well, that kind of sucks, because now I'm just kind of,
But
I don't know.
You have to give it its due as far as, like, this was Aleister Crowley's house. So even, let's just say, for the sake of argument, you don't believe in any of that stuff.
Right.
But we have talked in the past that we do believe in things that happen in a place that leave an impression. And things did happen. Not even magical things. Things happened. when everybody's lived there, mainly before Jimmy Page, honestly. Like, that's when the worst of it happened.
Yeah.
But people died there. We got into people being SA'd there, minors, just, bodies. There's bodies everywhere. You got to remember that.
Children died.
There are bodies everywhere.
Yeah.
The cemetery, I'm sure, is, one contained little area, but I am sure there are bodies all over that property.
Wow.
So that's what I'm saying. You have to kind of think of it in that way, because while you may not believe in magic, I don't even know where I stand on that, because it's interesting to obviously, but I don't know if I believe in it. But I do believe that there are bodies and things happen there. And we've said time and time again that, that's what we think does it.
Right.
So I don't know. It's confusing.
I don't know either.
Well, you better figure it out, because I got to ask you a question. Is it real? These are always my favorite times to hit you with this. Baby, Mrs. Me.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Mr. You.
When it comes to Boleskine House, I always want to call it Castle for some reason. When it comes to Boleskine House and the magical doings of Mr. Aleister Crowley, do you believe that it's haunted?
I don't know. I think I agree with a lot of what you said right before, that whether you believe in rituals and magic and things like that, there is a lot of stuff that happened here. There was the small wars and the fights that happened way back in the day, and then who knows what happened before that. So I'm going to say, I'm going to say there is definitely the recipe here for things to happen. People have had experiences here, whether they believed it to be paranormal or not. It's definitely some of those unexplainable things. So I'm going to say, yeah.
Okay.
What about you, babe?
I'm going to say yes.
Oh, okay. I did not expect that.
I don't know if I believe in the magical aspect, but the one thing I do believe is that they believed. And I do believe that you have the ability to put enough energy back into something to make it a reality.
That was a very good way of putting that.
And again, people are buried on this property. People died here. People probably died here in ways that we can't even fathom.
Right.
Ways that we couldn't even comprehend because we live in the modern age.
I don't think I'd want to, but
yeah. And I mean, there's been died here, and people were hurt here. And I mean, it wasn't always like this, but it did happen. So I just have to believe it. It's Aleister Crowley's house. I like I said, I don't really believe in any of the magical stuff, but I believe he really believed.
Yeah.
I believe he could have.
He definitely did.
I believe he could have put enough energy into thinking this stuff that he could have brought something in, or at least brought something from the land up. So I don't know. I would be weary of the place. I still want to see it. I still want to visit it. I'd still go there, but I don't think I'd be so quick to just brush off every little thing that happened. I think I'd be pretty open-minded to something being there.
Right. Maybe not a portal to hell.
I don't know, because it is odd that this place catches on fire all the time.
I mean, that is kind of crazy.
And that is a good line that I read, that, that's hell trying to reclaim what belongs to it. And Aleister Crowley was he was pretty heavy on the dark magic side. He was also pretty heavy on the power bottom side, but that's neither here nor there. It doesn't make him a bad person. I just think it's funny. Because if you see Aleister Crowley, he looks like somebody's grandpa. And I just find it hysterical. But he was a weird guy.
Yes.
I do think it is. I think all the stuff is there that we usually talk about. So that means it's going to get the, what are we calling it? I guess it's seal of approval.
Yeah.
The big old seal of approval.
I don't really do that anymore.
I know.
I'm going to rip that from an old episode and put it on a button.
Do it.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. It's coming back. And if you're a viewer on YouTube and you don't know what that is, you're going to find out.
Yeah.
It used to be a big part of the show. So, yeah, I mean, that is it. It's, Boleskine House. It is pretty legendary, honestly. And it might be legendary place that you've never heard of, but I promise you, it is legendary.
I'd never heard of it. I know who Aleister Crowley was, but I didn't associate.
Mr. Crowley.
See, you get to do it, but I can't.
You did it twice. I'm just getting my one.
I don't know. I never associated him with a specific place, I guess. So it's kind of cool to find out where that was.
I'm almost positive there's also a place over in California associated with him, which is actually what I was looking for.
Really?
When I found this.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe there'll be another one coming up. But before we end this thing out, I do want to give a shout out to my niece, who goes by Silver in the Ghost Pack, I believe, on YouTube.
That's right.
And she's been watching and sharing our episodes with her entire community. And, she's my niece. Of course, I love her. And keep up the good work. I actually watch them all the ones she does on us, and I comment. And if I can get into a live, I pop in.
We did that. Was it last night?
Was it last night?
Yeah, I think it was last night.
No, it was the night before.
You sure?
I don't know. It was either last night or the night before. But it's fun, and she definitely helped put us out to, an audience that I don't know if we would have reached. So thank you.
Thank you, Silver.
Shout out to her friend that she had on, Mikey Sue's 4, I believe is what he went by on YouTube. Mikey Sue's 4. So, and we did get the request. And who was your friend that requested the same location?
Oh, Lindsay.
So it's been requested twice now. So we're probably going to do it next week.
I'm excited.
Yeah. It's been asked twice, so I got to do it.
Got to now. Moving to the top of the list.
Yeah, it has to. But anyways, I think this is where we will end this. Where can they find us?
Well, they can find us on Instagram at @forthebooze_podcast and on Facebook at @forthebooze.
You can also find us on X at @forthebooze. You can find us right here on YouTube at @forthebooze, on TikTok at @forthebooze. TikTok, I got them all.
Yep.
And if you would like to join the ranks of our most lovely Patreons.
Our beautiful Patreon people.
We have Joe the Matador Mattern. He's such a warrior, that guy. We have Teresa O'Reilly Donnell. I cannot do this.
I knew you were going to say that.
I got stuck. And we've got Tina Bobina Madat. I got nothing. Why am I so bad?
You just need to stop before this has to be a thing.
It's going to be a thing.
No.
It's so fun.
No.
It's so funny. But don't also, if you have a listener story or a suggestion that you would like us to cover, by all means, send it in to forthebooze.com. We're weird today. And we're going to get out of here. We have other videos to go make today.
We do.
So why don't you go ahead and take us out, babe?
Well, thank you, everybody, so much for listening. And we will see you in the next one.
Bye. Watch out for Aleister Crowley, the power bottom.
Mr. Crowley.
Hey, don't get us copyright.